For the workshop period?
No.
No.
We don't have time.
Okay. We'll do it all tomorrow.
So now we're going to go into our final workshop of the day. Alex and Sade will have this next part.
Alrighty, so like Sade said, at 2:35 we'll start. So we'll give it one more minute, let you guys get some water, or take a breath until that 1 minute. There you go, stretch like Mary B is doing.
Hey, Alex. Sorry, I don't know if you were speaking now, but I think you're muted.
I am. Thank you, Jordan. That's embarrassing. So I said, I was saying, like Sade said, this next workshop is going to be practical tools. So I want to go over the learning objectives with you guys. So that way you guys know what to expect out of this and what you're going to get. And so that way you can look forward to it as much as I have. So, we're going to go ahead. We're going to practice distinguishing between discomfort and harm when having dialogue around racism and bias. We're going to assess micro and macro levels of bias that members experience or witness and apply practical tools to intervene and address racism when it happens. Engage in self-reflection of personal bias and privilege and how that affects your position in terms of intervening and addressing racism. Practice utilizing the toolkit provided applied to specific situations using scenarios. Engage in continued learning via resource tools provided during the workshop. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get into it now. So first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to the workshop. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into reading this poem called Big Love. And this is a poem that, a lot of people are a fan of. So to get it started, I'm going to read the poem. The poem is by Ellen Lerner. So I'm going to go ahead. Big love in this world of big and small. There are all kinds of love, all kinds, all. There's fig love and twig love and purple bee wig love. There's dot love and square love and miles of lines love. Even fleas on puppies behind, they can find love. There's rose love and nail clothes love and wherever it goes love. There's also a kind you can smell with your nose love. There's bat love and ball love and dance in the hall love. There's tight love and flight love and way out of sight love. There's straight love and curve love and get up the nerve love. There's still love and noise love and sharing your toys love. There's old love and young love and not yet begun love and a most special kind called happens again love. And I'm gonna pass the rest of the poem off to Sade now. She's gonna go ahead and finish it up.
All right. So there's one type that's found inside mirrors. It's like what is like it, anyways, it appears. And then there's a great deal of love for those others who have different colors, expressions, or druthers. Everything's got love from down low to up high, has its reasons for being under the sky. Love is a happiness just to be there, to know you are a part of this world that we share. Like a shoe fits its sole and the donut its whole. Everything feels the space only it can make full. Everyone on this earth, and that includes you, is a big piece of the world, and big love is the glue. But some people's love sometimes has got shrunk. All the world's pieces puts them in a funk. They're not at all glad about what is out there. They don't love some cultures or language or even their hair. You may have met them. They're facing a frown. It's easy to spot them. They put people down. They're feeling quite right when they think you're quite wrong, and believe you're weak is what makes them feel strong. They're not at all happy about what's not their decision, like who's in your family, your size, or religion. They don't like this style. They don't like that art. And please don't tell them who's close to your heart. If they really get going, it's more than a pout. They'll call people names, they'll threaten and shout, they'll get all together, their pals get taller, and the more they stop loving, their hearts just get smaller. They start making laws about who's best and who must, that people keep people from big love and each other's trust. There's something they're scared of, but not you, so don't hide. They're scared there's no big love, that it's all just pretend, and outside of their small love, all love will end. They really would like to come out and play, to enjoy who you are and admit you're okay. But they've forgotten that thought and locked it away. It's a tippiest top secret with 9 locks barred secure, where the key is even they are unsure. And here's a little known fact, so listen and know. Deep down inside, there's a place they don't go. In that faraway corner, in a tight little ball, their big love is waiting to love all things, all. But what can I do, you might worry in doubts, when I face them in fear that my love will shrink out? If you don't want your heart shrunk to a sliver of ice, if you don't want to feel bad when your people aren't nice, then reach for your big love once, twice, and thrice. Love who you are, and big love has begun. Start with something about you that's simple but fun. Feel better? Go on. Big love makes you strong. You can be who you are and still know you belong. It's working. Think more. Make love bigger, and then do an encore. All right, so how many people thought that poem was totally cheesy? Let me know in the chat or the emojis.
Has anyone ever heard of the concept Big Love? Again, go ahead and let us know in the chat or using the emojis. So you may have heard a CYC member or CYC staff say Big Love, an appreciation of someone or as an acknowledgement of a challenge or struggle. Or you may have seen Big Love on a list of community agreements. And the traditions of CYC Big Love has been a way for us to encompass a complicated concept into a shorthand to be able to support and remind each other about compassion and self-understanding. Now we want to take a moment and really talk about what Big Love is.
All right, so we're going to do some small groups. And all we want you to do in your small groups is to create your own definition of big love. So we just gave you a full poem of what Ellen Lerner believes it is, but we all have our own connections to the words. And even if you've never heard it before, just imagine, what would you define when thinking of big and love? So we're going to put you all into some breakout rooms for about 10 minutes and just create a definition. Be ready to share.
And Sade, for that, you want 10 or 7 minutes?
We can do 7.
Okay.
Dang, I accidentally killed my balloon thing after you all start talking about love.
Anyone in the main group need help getting into the breakout room? Anyone need any help? There's about 15 participants in this room. Shade, real quick, would it be beneficial to keep the breakout rooms with the same groups of people for the next set, or do you want to randomize it?
Keep them with the same set, but for the last one, they can stay for the same set for this next one, but for the last one, which is when they're going to create scenarios, and it should be a different group.
Okay.
Alex, I text you. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my mouse to work on my computer.
Okay.
I saw it though.
Perfect. Hey, I don't think I broke up that dang poem equally because I was like, hold up, why is it so long?
It's just long. I'm telling you. There's no equality about it. It's just long.
All right, Alex, so we can let them share a couple of them too. Like share some of their definitions. We don't have to have everybody share all of them, but definitely a couple of the groups can share their definitions that they came up with. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I like that idea.
Okay. I had to go to my son's room because my internet in my room is freaking crappy. So I'm in the nursery.
Oh, so cute.
You never, usually I work from in here because the internet's so good.
I've never seen the background though. But we're all back, by the way.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome, welcome. Right, Jordan. Okay, so who would anybody like to share the big love definitions that they came up with?
Sure. Our group, we had like several definitions, but collectively, I think it was about self-love, self-care, by addressing ourselves, understanding ourselves, loving ourselves, we can better address our community. Standing up for me, standing up for yourself is an example of big love. And self-care, escaping oppression.
Well, I love those. Definitely self-care as well, self-care and self-love. And then you advocate for yourself differently. You truly love and respect all of who you are. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Would anybody else like to share?
Yeah, I'll share for our group. Although 100% credit goes to Marcelo. We basically like agreed that we can't say it any better than that. So big love is facing ignorance and hate with empathy and trying to hold on to the truth you hold in your heart. It is using your heart to find strength in difficult situations.
Whew.
Right, like how are we going to top that? Like that was it.
That just sounds like such a eloquent, like Webster definition. That was perfect. Okay, group. All right, I want to elevate Jay in the chat, being able to have grace, knowing that we are all, in a way, products of harmful mindsets, choosing love as we heal and help others' growth into liberated mindsets rooted in the value of humanity. That's beautiful too. So absolutely, that compassion that we get from loving ourselves usually extends over to other people as well. So definitely a dope point. All right, so thank you all for sharing. So we're gonna go ahead and continue going. Please keep in mind that big love, as we go through this workshop, lots of time people may act in a way that doesn't make sense to you. Big love is about the ability to develop capacity to understand the behaviors of others and to go inside yourself to find compassion and understanding as to why people do the things that they do, but also a good way to not personalize the behaviors of others. Big love oftentimes serves as an armor to being able to see the good in people, even when they don't necessarily showcase that to us. It's a way to protect yourself, and it is rooted in the ability to find capacity to love. So let's make sure we can keep that at the center, especially as we look at how we can increase our capacity doing anti-racist work. All right, so now we're gonna get the slides up because we're gonna do a nice vocabulary review. So yesterday we've already done like a bunch of workshops, but in particular during the equity versus equality workshop, y'all learned a bunch of different terms, some that you've already known and maybe added a little bit of context, some that were completely new. So we wanna play a game with you guys and we're gonna show you a slide with a definition, but the words are scrambled. We want y'all to tell us what is the word. Of course, you can yell it. I mean, you can put it in the chat, but honestly, I would love to hear some yelling. So if some of y'all can go unmute and let us know what it is, shout out to Queen Angela. I can't see the whole thing in full. Okay, next one, Kenny. All right, so again, most of these words we've already went over, but does anybody know the answer to this one? The definition: the state, quality, or ideal of being fair, just, and impartial, explains that our experiences are different based on our identities and many other circumstances. This also means that our needs are different. It shows the importance of addressing individual needs.
It's equity.
All right.
April, you don't get to play no more.
No fair. I was like sitting here hovering over the mute button too, like I'm ready.
Yeah, we saw you.
Now I'm hovering over the unmute button. I'm going to get the next one.
All right, so
come on, guys, let's make it a competition. Let's make it fun. Get the energy up.
Yeah, April was right. It's equity, and thank you for showing what I'm hoping everybody else do. All right, next slide. You want to take this one, Alex? I can take it. So the everyday slights, indignities, put downs, and insults that people of color, women, LGBTQ populations, or those who are marginalized experience in their day-to-day interactions with people. What's this one?
Microaggressions.
Okay.
Good job. Go ahead, Kristen.
Okay.
Coco.
See who's good at unscrambling those words.
Okay. All right, so next slide, because that is absolutely correct. Microaggressions. So those are you may not have went over that, but those are the slights that you experience. Those, can I touch your hair? Or so you grew up in the hood? Like, it's not, but it is like, are you serious? So it's those slights that generally are rooted in like stereotypical beliefs.
Right, like, you're so articulate.
There you go. So it's not intentionally harmful. Somebody else? Somebody's going?
I'll take this one. I was on mute last time again, unfortunately.
Okay.
So a form of racism where marginalized groups develop ideas, beliefs, actions, and behaviors that support or collude with racism. Individuals, institutions, and communities of color are often rewarded for supporting, while privilege and power are and punished and excluded when they do not. Because this form of racism is a systematic oppression, it must be distinguished from human wounds like self-hatred or low self-esteem, to which all people are vulnerable.
Internalized.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Good job.
Alexis had her hand up too, like you just gotta butt in.
I told you this is not the hand-raising activity. This is the yell it out so you can be right and brag activity.
She was ready to go and then it just didn't happen.
Alexis,
Can I just say something real quick?
Mm-hmm.
So I ain't even gonna lie, even now, like even though there might have been some Black characters, or some shows, it's like I still saw mostly white people. Obviously, don't get me wrong, I love my white people, unless you're racist, then I don't like you. Anyway, it's like I never really saw too many people look like me, and there's sometimes where I wish I was like white or light skinned so that I could be like more desirable, and like I still struggle with that, but like I'm learning to love my blackness, love myself, and all that stuff, and like then like because I'm just saying you could disagree with me if you want to, but Black people, we the blueprint. I'm just saying we the blueprint when you really think about it.
Such a beautiful point. Kenny, could you go back to the last slide? Because I think Linnea raised like something that's so critical, and there's something in the definition that I want to make sure we point out.
Oh, it doesn't let me go back.
What in the?
Oh, wait, here we go. All right, there we go.
Kenny. All right, so it says right here, because this form of racism is a systemic oppression, it must be distinguished from human wounds like self-hatred or low self-esteem, to which all people are vulnerable. So what Linnea is talking about is different than just this idea of like low self-esteem or even self-hatred. The reason that a lot of young people of color, and yes, that's very much inclusive of Black people, have kind of beliefs about themselves that aren't always positive is because of the world that we live in, and these images and beliefs that's reinforced that we're just not as good. So then you turn around and you don't like aspects about yourself because that's what the world doesn't like about you too. So Linnea, I definitely just want to show real love to you because I've had very similar experiences, and I'm a grown woman still trying to take away pieces of that from me too.
And this also comes up in like the Asian culture, right? If you're Asian and dark, you're associated with like the lesser valued Asian community. Like you're a worker, you're just a lot of negative associations with that. Also in the Latinx, right? That the darker people in that community also gets like downplayed or gets discriminated for being closer to the indigenous populations versus the more Eurocentric looking population. So definitely you can see it that it's globally.
All right, Kenny, you can skip ahead. Thank you, though. So the definition, this is the racism that occurs between individuals. It is the holding of negative attitudes towards a different race or culture, and acting on those attitudes often follows a victim perpetrator model. Can include things like racial slurs, physical violence, and refusing someone's service. What's this? Oh, this one got y'all stumped?
Is it intrapersonal or interpersonal?
I thought you said you wasn't.
You're not allowed to play, girl.
No. I don't even know the answers. I didn't build this curriculum.
All right, so go to the next one, Kenny, because I think April's right.
Interpersonal.
Yes, this is. There we go.
Wonder how she knew.
I really don't know this one. I had no idea. I didn't get the internalized one, I promise.
Audience,
what about the one before that?
Audience people, April has access to the entire curriculum, so take this information.
I'm not looking at it though.
All right, next. You got it, Alex.
Yep. Still loading for me.
Okay.
I see Linnea's hand raised.
Already?
Yes. If it's not institutional racism, then I don't know.
Dang. Boom.
Okay. So institutional and cultural practices that perpetuate racial inequality. Yeah. If you go next, I think it is institutional. So that's different than like the interpersonal that reflects somebody's personal beliefs. We're now talking about the ways in which systems and institutions uphold racism. So that's looking at the fact that we have colleges all across the nation, and many of them like literally only have single digit percentages of people of color, or job discrimination or housing discrimination. So that's not a person to person thing. That's actually an institutional a form of oppression.
All right. So does anybody have any last comments or questions on the little game we just played?
Oh, you still got another one.
One more.
Oh, we got one more?
You got a couple more.
Oh, okay.
I don't think Alex is seeing them. That's what. Right, Alex? You
Yeah.
see.
Well, yeah, like it says Kenny's screen, and then all I see is black.
Does anyone else? Is anyone
So,
else seeing the screen?
I can see the screen.
I was having trouble seeing the screen, but now I can see it.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and read this one. Alex, let me know when it's coming back. So the ways in which the joint operation of institutions produce racialized outcomes, even in the absence of racist intent. Indicators of this form of racism include power inequalities, unequal access to opportunities, and deferring policy outcomes by race. This form of racism is not something that a few people or institutions choose to practice. Instead, it has been a feature of the social, economic, and political systems in which we all exist. So what's this one?
Structural racism.
I was gonna get that one. Alexis was too fast.
Okay. I think she got it right, Kenny. Let's check. Structural. So now we're talking about policies, procedures, institutions, as well as societal beliefs. So all of that together, that creates literally a structural form of racism that hits every aspect of life. All right, Alex, can you see this one?
No.
Okay. All right, so an ongoing system of power that perpetuates the genocide and repression of indigenous peoples and cultures in order to replace them and establish the invaders as the new rightful inhabitants. In other words, settler colonizers do not merely exploit indigenous peoples and lands for labor and economic interests, they displace them through settlements. Includes interlocking forms of oppression, including racism, supremacy, heteropatriarchy, and capitalism. These intersecting dimensions coalesce, around the disposition of indigenous peoples' lands, resources, and cultures. A hint, the answer is within the definition.
Yeah, it's that settler one.
Settler
colonialism.
Who said that? Was that Marcelo?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It also includes genocide, settler colonialism.
Yes. And a major aspect of it is genocide. So an analytical framework for understanding how aspects of a person's social and political identities combine to create different modes of discrimination and privilege. The term was conceptualized and coined by Kimberly Williams Crenshaw.
Intersectionality.
Boom.
Boom. Oh, why was Alexis like congratulating herself as she answered it? She had her emoji, celebratory emoji up at the same time.
I just want to point out there was no S in the scrambled version.
Oh, well, luckily let me tell you how sharp Alexis has to be to have still figured it out.
Like the gifts of CYC.
On the planet by Omni Labs Limited. You must have an Ambi account in order to use this
Sorry.
skill.
Alexa.
Please use the Alexa app to link your Ambi account.
That's why I muted mine today, because it keeps thinking Alexis is its name.
Alexis.
Alexa wants you to put that S in there.
You need to get a new name. All right. An institutionally
I'll do this one.
Okay, you got it.
I'll do this one. I see it. An institutionally perpetuated and ever evolving system of exploitation and domination that consolidates and maintains power and resources among white people. This system promotes the ideology of whiteness as the standard and the belief that white people are superior to other races. Who wants to have a shot at it?
How long
Supremacy.
How long until I'm allowed to answer?
Mary shouldn't have been able to answer either.
Oh, I shouldn't be able. Absolutely not. But I'm going to answer though, because April got to answer, so I'm going to answer too.
Okay, so she's right. White supremacy. If I can note that this, mind you, this isn't explicitly talking about like the racist actions of white people, or it's not really centered in like the behaviors of per se, but it's also looking at the way that we've kind of created systems and structures that explicitly benefit white people and promote it as the standard. So oftentimes when we talk about white supremacy, people feel as if they're being personally attacked or as if there's somebody speaking on your behavior, when we're talking about literally a structural system, again, that hits every point of life that tends to just benefit one. And that has been like that since the creation of, well, for a very long time.
You got more?
Oh, you got it.
Go ahead.
I can't see it. So, oh no, I see it now.
Okay.
All right. The attitudes and stereotypes that affect our understanding, actions, and decisions in an unconscious manner. Basically, the shortcuts our brains take and comes from what we see and hear in the media and from what we see and hear from the people around us. Mary and April cannot answer.
It's a bias.
I want to say Jordan can't answer either though.
Say
Jordan. He has access to the curriculum too.
Right, and so does Alexis. I do want to point that out.
Right, if we have to suffer, so does everyone else.
Okay, so Jordan, we'll give that to you since you were so passionate with your answer because you have a halo over your head right now. But no more.
Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. Jordan's no angel.
That part.
I think we only have one more left.
All right, so
last one. All right, so a range of ideas and political actions which are meant to counter racial prejudice, systemic racism, and the oppression of specific racial groups.
Somebody without access to the curriculum.
Anti-racist.
Okay, Rebecca. That is absolutely right. So anti-racist. And I love this definition because it showcases the action and the necessary movements we have to make in order to be that. It's not just us claiming we're not racist, it's us actively working to eliminate it. Cat, ain't nobody trying to hear that. All right, it's all you, Alex.
all righty. Done with the game, right? All right. So before we move on, though, I want to ask if anybody has any questions or comments regarding that. How do you guys feel about that game? Let us know in the chat. And next we're gonna go into the topic of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So anti-racism. This is a diagram created by Ibram Kennedy. For many of us, it can be tempting to just avoid difficult conversations around topics like anti-Black racism. For others of us, maybe we want to have these conversations, but just don't feel prepared. It's time to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's when we find ourselves in an uncomfortable state that we allow ourselves and others an opportunity for growth. We want to acknowledge that racism is a hard topic. Don't discount the emotions that come with unpacking the way white supremacy may be manifesting in your actions. Walk with grace with yourself. Be patient when something isn't sticking, and be kind to yourself when you make a mistake, and extend that kindness to others. Remember, big love.
All right, so we're going to ask you all to go ahead and grab a piece of pencil, a piece of paper, and a pencil. Could be a piece if it needed to, because we're going to do a bit of reflecting on our own experiences with our advocacy, in particular, promoting anti-racism. So let's give you give you about 60 seconds to go and grab a pencil. And Kenny, if you can give us some tunes that are decent, that'd be litty. And when y'all got the pencil and paper, just go in the chat and say, I got it.
All right. So do a majority of us have a little pencil and paper?
Yep.
All right. So
we don't need no tunes now, Kenny. Too slow.
It's okay. We're going to need them for this activity anyway, but I have to agree.
we are going to... So to get started, we're going to do a simple self-assessment to better understand our own beliefs and deal with some of our own fears. I'd like you to consider the statements on the slide and select the one that best describes how you feel. I'd rather not talk about race or racism. I am very uncomfortable talking about race and racism. I am usually uncomfortable talking about race and racism. I am sometimes uncomfortable talking about race and racism. I am usually comfortable. I am very comfortable. And then after you write down the statement that best, describes how you feel or your own fears or beliefs about the topic, I would like you guys to finish these next two sentences. And the sentences are going to be: the hard part of talking about race and racism is, and the beneficial part of talking about race and racism is. So I will go ahead and drop these in the chat.
Well, Kenny, if you can go to the next slide, because it's on the next slide. There we go. So we're going to give y'all about 60 minutes just to reflect on which one of these best describes you. And Kenny, now would be dope to get a little bit of music.
60 minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry, 60 seconds. You right, Alex.
Can you guys move the thing? The little there.
A long time coming, but I know a change
Can you
gonna
see the questions? No?
Oh no, I think you moved it back.
It's been too hard.
There's a bar covering the last one.
No, Kenny, let me share because I got the PowerPoint up.
If not, I can share too, Sade. Let me know.
A long time coming, but I know a change gonna come.
There? Is that better?
Oh, yes it will.
Yeah, there's like a
To the movie, and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around.
You want to share?
It's been a long,
we got to get to the next slide.
a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come.
Sade, I can share. I got the PowerPoint up.
Okay, perfect.
Then I go to my brother, and I say, brother, help me.
Okay. All right, Mary, but you can go to the next one. Okay. So now we just want you guys to take some time and reflect on these two questions and write out your thoughts. The first one, and Alex read this a little earlier, but take time to reflect on the hard part of talking about race or racism and racism is. And then think about the beneficial part of talking about race and racism. And we did something a little similar during the grounding session. So this will definitely be an opportunity to just revisit that. Great, and some music. I don't know what it is that you've done to.
Kenny, you still got to be DJ because I can't share my audio.
Okay. I'm back. Begins.
Talk to me so you can see what's going on. What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? Oh, what's going on?
All right, Alex, you want to take this next one?
Yeah, so what will a discussion about race and racism potentially expose? So list some strengths you believe will help you lead open and honest dialogue about race. List any that could help you guide hard conversations. What actions do you need to take to meet those needs? Again, how much time do we give last time for the questions?
We gave about 1 minute. For this one, we'll give closer to like 2.
All right, yeah, so go ahead, take 2 minutes, enjoy the music, and answer the questions.
I know y'all still writing. Please continue to do your own reflections, but I wanted to highlight what Jay said in the chat. She noted having a resource I can point to that is unbiased, like statistical reflections that demonstrate what I'm saying. I think that's definitely a tool to use when having these conversations.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand
All
by
right,
me.
let's go ahead and go to the next one.
It's the sky that we look upon.
Right.
Should tumble
So the
and
other, some of the other things that we should be considering as we do these reflections, and again, this is just kind of the first step, as you all know, but definitely looking at the emotional labor that's required. And I don't know, some of y'all may have already heard this term, but just what it means to engage in these conversations, especially when these conversations are connected to your identities. So it can be really heavy. So kind of asking yourself, how am I doing? Do I have the emotional resources to do the work of being present for this dialogue right now? If you've recently been engaged in a lot of emotional labor, it's okay to let someone else do the work this time. So it doesn't have to always fall on you to educate people about anti-racism. You absolutely get to choose. And I definitely posit this onto those who are living, like are existing in this world and experiencing oppression because of those identities while also trying to teach about it. And then triggers. It's really important. We all talk about triggers, but you know how certain experiences or statements impact you. How am I feeling? Am I grounded enough to engage in this dialogue right now? And if the discussion is one that is too sensitive to you to be able to authentically engage in dialogue as a learning space, it's cool to let somebody else lead as well. And not only is it okay to preserve your own self-care, but it also can be more beneficial to that other person that you want to teach to, because when we respond based off of triggers, not only does it harm us, we can also kind of perpetuate the same harm that we want to be against. And I just want to elevate the chat. I see April stated, also as a white person, we need to acknowledge that it is a privilege to be able to turn off, because for people of color, they do not have that option. Definitely a true statement. And I'm also pushing like people of color to actually try to turn it off. Like, we may not be able to turn off being people of color, but that doesn't mean that we have to like spend ourselves trying to battle supremacy with no breaks, with no time for us to take care of ourselves, to live in our joy in our culture too. So I definitely think it's a barter between the two. I can't stop being Black, but I'm gonna have Black joy too. And I think that we all should get to have our joys that's within our culture, as well as the joy of just being who we are. Right. So then taking action to confront and reject racism and discrimination is a critical role for all of us. Noting that, of course, it's everybody's responsibility to stomp this out. And now we're going to go into some breakout groups. They should be the same groups that you were in before, but we want you all to just reflecting on the slides that we went through, especially the personal reflections. And we thank y'all for participating in them, because we know we're asking you to ask yourself some pretty hard conversations. But I'm dropping in the chat some questions to have with small groups. All right, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. So please partake, and we can't wait to hear what you talk about.
Kenny, do you want music from Kenny now?
They should be going into small groups, so we could, but they should be doing the small group discussions.
Okay. And if y'all need help with entering your breakout groups, please feel free to hit up Benjamin.
Everyone should have access to the breakout groups now. I see that there's about still over 20 people in the main session. So if you guys need some help, just let me know.
It's slowly dwindling. Please, y'all, head to y'all breakout groups. Actually, it's mine. This one. So these can be from it.
Should I stop unsharing my screen, or y'all still want me to share the screen?
Hey, Michaela, did you need help getting into breakout room?
I accidentally clicked the wrong one. So you could just throw me into whichever one is fine. Thank you.
Benjamin, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Can we give like a 5-minute warning in like 2 minutes and then a 2-minute warning as well for wrap up?
Okay. All right, awesome. Jordan, did you get kicked out of the room or can you self-select? I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I went to breakout room 2, but I noticed there was no one there.
Yeah, I think I moved everyone out of that room. So let me move you into room 8. I'm going to put you in room 8.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Anna, did you get kicked out? Anna, did you get kicked out?
No, I just had to rejoin by my phone. Thanks for asking. You can put me anywhere.
What?
Thanks.
Do you remember what group the second one I put you in, or you just a new one will be fine?
Anyone is good. I think I was in one the second time, but not sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Ben.
tired of Zoom.
I don't like these breakout groups. They be taking you out in the middle of a good conversation.
It was getting so gully.
Yeah, I want DAC back in person. Can we make that happen again?
We are working on it.
We gotta ask. We gotta ask the Delta variant about that.
Right.
Talk to your SMC coacher.
Okay, but would anybody like to share while we get the slides up? Would anybody like to share what y'all talked about in small groups?
I can go. I think kind of we were talking about like going back, like kind of what I said earlier about like you know, seeing those memes and seeing all the stuff about like I don't see color, I see character kind of stuff, and I see a lot of like of that, or like people just not acknowledging like the real reason a lot of like athletes and stuff are kneeling during the national anthem, and like not looking at the real reason behind it, and just like wanting to have those conversations is kind of like figuring out wanting to have those conversations with those people, but at the same time the issue with having it is it's like, you know, is it going to be worth their time? Like, is it going to be an argument, or is it going to be an actual conversation with these people? Like, are they going to be willing to listen to the whole side and not, you know, and are they going to actually take what is said and have from that conversation and change their mind? Or are they going to really just stay in the same mindset because that's where their mind is set on, like just beyond like what they're seeing as like, you know, just their own mindset per se.
Alex, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, but I think that Rebecca just made like a really powerful point.
Yeah, I want to add just to that, since I was in that group with Rebecca, really understanding that it's up to you, and it varies between the environments, how you feel in choosing to engage with that. And as an ally, you know, like that's one of the things that we look to allies to do, especially if the conversation is sensitive to one of our identities or the identity that someone may hold in as to reason why they don't want to engage in that conversation. As well as platforms, you know, sometimes it's easier. I know for me, it's easier to have these conversations in person because people can read my intentions better versus being on Facebook. People feel automatically attacked when you don't agree with them. And they may go into defending their mindset, even though you're just trying to put them onto some growth. And you know, that's a gift towards them that they're not trying to receive, and that can cause harm within yourself too, especially if it's a family member or somebody close in your proximity. But knowing that you don't have to go into full-fledged, devoted, giving 3 hours of your time to just anybody to put them on. It could be you need to plant the seed so that they can prepare themselves to have conversations like this. Maybe dropping a link. I do that often on Facebook. I just drop a link and says like, hey, like go ahead and inform yourself because I don't think this is like true, or, you know, like look at the facts. You know, I love bringing statistics into the question because people can't really argue against those. And I don't want anybody to argue against my experiences because that's something that is like very harmful to me. If somebody's like, I'm telling you how I experienced it and you're denying it, but it's still like a truth. So how can you tell me it's false when I experienced it? So I like to bring in facts. I like to drop links. I like to assess where people are at, plant the seed, and hopefully they get it enough to be able to engage further in a conversation because it's laborious. It can get tiring. And so you don't want to have just all of your tools and everything dropped in on somebody who's not ready for them, right? So knowing that you can plant the seeds, knowing that you can wait till you're in person, knowing that you can orchestrate it so that it's the most comfortable for you to have these conversations, and always knowing that the conversations may be difficult, they may be a little hard, a little uncomfortable, rouse out some anxiety in yourself. So it's important to also take care of yourself after putting in that labor to put somebody on. So that's just a little bit of what we got from our group.
That's dope. I love this because that was so many different approaches to helping somebody. And Jay broke down, like there's a bunch of different ways. Like one, just looking at the environment. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to do these in person, but sometimes it's just as simple as, hey, I saw your comment. I got this article for you. Please educate yourself, or when you can. And if you want to have a conversation, let me know. But again, there's agency in that choice. Somebody recently hit me up in my inbox kind of about something along the same lines about cultural appropriation. And I literally just gave them some websites like, okay, so I'm not going to tell you what to do because I feel weird about that, but I will show you how hair discrimination impacts different people. And that's that. I left it at that. And you can do that as well. So I see in the chat, April said, although there are different, definitely those, no matter how much proof you show, they won't change their beliefs. Absolutely. And which I like, I will say, so I have relatives. My family is very homophobic. And to be honest, my shift from that came from being in foster care. And got you. And being around people, you tell me, who had different orientations than I, and then actually learning people who were gender fluid or who were trans. Like I saw that so young, and I lived with folks, and they kind of taught like how you see that we live in the same place and space, and on the same time, like you also see like people's humanity. And I'm really thankful for parts of my foster care experience because I did get to see that, but also noting that my family didn't. And so I got relatives who like still spit this, and I check them. Like I choose one. I also know that labor isn't the same way as somebody who does identify as gay or lesbian or trans or gender fluid or queer. And because of that, I know that there's ways that I can engage in this conversation that is different than other people. But I also know that like I can't give up on my family because I love them, but I'm not going to, you can't say this in front of me. Like you can't. So, and once you do, we're going to have a conversation about it. So I do believe that there are people who won't change, but I also know that even some of those, I'm still going to try.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot in our group, and sometimes you just have to not engage. Or try to engage for a little while, and if they're still not, then just choose to stop engaging.
Yeah, somebody in my group also had a similar kind of comment. They said that conversations with race, they felt like they were futile, and that it always end up going into religious beliefs. And so that they felt like it was a waste of breath, so they just stopped engaging. Wait, maybe I read the wrong comment, but it was similar sentiments.
It may also be helpful to reflect on what it took for us to change our minds about certain things, or how the journey that we came from to get to where we are, even on our own journeys, to be even more enlightened. Because I definitely agree. You want to take the time and really think about the effort, the labor that you put into things. But I think it can also be a lot more helpful if we go back to when we ourselves were ignorant of stuff, when we ourselves didn't know this, and what we would have wanted in that moment to be taught. When were the times to teach, and when were the times when we just wasn't going to listen to it? I see some folks, some people choose not to change, and you can control other people's beliefs, setting the example, not putting energy or fighting with fire. Oh yes, onto fighting with fire and acknowledging the above is the higher ground. Feel it, feel it. We have Bible versus indigenous practices. Let's talk. I mean, I'm hoping maybe during some of the evening at spaces just to get away from this topic, but man, I mean, I also think we can engage in this and have like some real talk sessions, but you can be ready to help someone, but if they aren't ready to receive it, it can take a toll on you if you expend your efforts there. From Jay, Alexis, I've gotten told many times I'm just overly offended because I'm chronically online for speaking out online, and have found in person convos to be more receptive. Yeah, that's what Jay was saying too. Like sometimes it just hit different when you're in someone's face and can have that conversation. But I also think that's contextual to relationship because you wouldn't want to do that with everybody too. Or actually, maybe that's just me. So see, I hate those conversations. It's stressful, but I'm so open to both point of views. Already, big love.
There's one other comment that I really want to highlight because I think this is like pivotal. Let me see if I can find it. They said that they have this conversation with their mother, and even though they understand kind of what's going on, the issue that they are facing is with colorism and how darker skin still has like gets targeted even more, and how that is hurt, and how that person is hurt by that.
I didn't see that was in the chat.
It was in my chat. It was my group chat. So, and I also want to make sure that we elevate this because absolutely, especially people that have those that are that can be white passing do have it easier versus those brothers and sisters that are unapologetically Black, and there's no like, hey, I'm mixed, right? So that is absolutely real. That has been like inculcated, especially in the South. Lighter skin is just, yeah, that we would have to have a whole other series on that.
Yes, it's before you got some agreement in the chat. To me, it's that those people saying that they are the sensitive ones, since when they are confronted with something new that they don't understand, they shy away from it. 3, yeah. And then I see you said also, yes, my mother's the same way. My mother family also heavily believes I'm not old enough to understand myself and should only be focusing on finances in schools. Going against school of thoughts, like there's so many different parts of it, because that's also generational. Like folks from that, like whose time was like years before, they lived a different way. And I think that right now we in a space where people ain't going, and it's actually pretty dope. Next slide, Kenny. You want to take this one, Alex? Might be having some connectivity issues. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So we talked about navigating difficult topics, and I appreciate so much the input that y'all gave to the conversation. So here we have an example of a CYC instance where some conversation took place. And I wanted to make sure to share this with you all. So a challenging comment is made. And the comment was, not all white people are bad. My white friend from the South said he is treated like crap by Black people. So that was the comment that was made. And like, think about the different reactions people can have to a comment like that. I'm pretty sure you all kind of brought up some examples. Some people can meet it with hostility. Some people can just meet it with ignorance or just completely ignoring it. But I want to break down kind of some of the response that we got from that comment. So those that responded with a different response met the speaker with respect, even while providing different outlooks. The focus was on the challenging comment, but they didn't judge the actual commenter. They made sure to lead with empathy, but also was very clear and authentic in their beliefs. So one of the responses was, we're not saying that all white people are bad at all. And again, that was acknowledging that the statement and adding clarity about the intention. So this particular person like made it clear in this conversation, we're not even talking about all white people. And then the next responder stated, it's important to acknowledge how fragility shows up in our expectations of how people should act. Because as you said, as it says, my white friend from the South said he is treated like crap by Black people. And I think that oftentimes when we have these conversations, there is a bit of respectability that can be placed on people of color in particular. Like you need to act a certain way in order to not experience racism, when in reality, nobody should experience that regardless. So it's contributing a perspective that identifies why the statement is challenging, and it opens up for discussion. So by kind of bringing that up, I think that they were still very intentional about calling in. You know, it wasn't a comment made to push away. It was a comment that really looked at the statement, but also challenged it a little. And then the next responded, you know, was said, you know, it sounds to me like this person may be struggling with a savior complex too. Using an I statement to contribute a different perspective. They were very clear to say, I feel like this is me. So again, making sure to really personalize the response, but we're not asking anybody to water it down or be inauthentic in their approach. You can be real, you can tell it like it is, but also how do we balance that with big love at the same time? With the, what is it? Empathy, radical compassion. I got that from the business with Vanessa. But how do we make sure we approach some of these really hard conversations with radical compassion, with radical empathy? Go back. Yeah, not done with it yet, almost. So this was the response. And again, this is all a real thing that happened. So these were the responses that we got to that challenging comment. But then on the bottom, you see that those responses, the fact that there wasn't no intentional tearing anybody down, there was no judgments made about the person, there was literally just responses to the comments. That created a brave space, because we had a space that was rooted in respect and that was intended to teach and not scold or disrespect. It created a brave space. It allowed for people to speak more freely about their experiences. So the brave space was further solidified by those responses from the supportive community and allowed for additional people to share their stories. Another responder was able to talk about how they experienced shopping while brown while attempting to shop at a clothing store. So the fact that those responders kind of responded with love, but also in authenticity and challenges, it allowed for a space where people felt more free to speak about this topic. But then just as important, it allowed for a real space to grow. So the community member who made that comment continued to engage. We didn't lose this person. And it was because of the way that the conversation flowed. Again, authentic, clear, and with a lot of love and respect. That the community member stated, thank you for all for sharing these different ways of looking at things. I'm glad we have this space to learn. So, and I know that this is kind of this may not be the ways that you've experienced this communication. However, our hope is that as we continue to build off our understanding of anti-racist practice, we understand also how important it is to be compassionate in that advocacy, or at the very least, to be very cognizant of our approaches. And I say that because I'm not always smiling at people when having these conversations, especially when we're talking about identities that I hold. But I also know that when I know I can't hold that, then it's not a conversation for me to have at that time. Are there any questions about this graph at all, or about how the responders or the person who made it, or any questions about how it was done? Okay. Alex, do you want to read some of what's in the chat? I'm trying to get to it. I see that there's a couple of responses, but it's kind of hard for me to see. Okay. Oh, I might have lost Alex. You still there?
Yeah, I don't know if Alex is just having trouble getting on. But to to raise up. Toph has been in the chat talking about how so many of their closeted friends or just random closeted LGBTQ plus people tell them that they're more comfortable with their body, their identity, because Toph spoke up. It just makes me so happy yet so upset, because to me, people should have already been told this. For example, they made a post saying, I don't care what anyone says, my body doesn't dictate my identity. And nobody, not even other trans people, can dictate how I should act. Brenda was upping that. And then Toph went on to say, it's so normalized to tell our trans siblings that their body doesn't fit into a box. And I think that's disgusting and destroys their mental state. We need to normalize that gender expression does not equal gender identity, and to stop assuming what someone's pronouns are and to ask. People who are selective with who they support are not allowed to call themselves allies. If you only support binary trans people who fit into that box, you are not an ally. So many people fail to understand that one trans person does not speak for the whole community. When I first came out, people would tell me, oh, so you're white? Or I thought that was a white thing. And it's so sad to me that people of color are less likely to come out because of their culture or because they are scared that their loved ones are going to turn them away. And I felt the same way. It hurt every bone in my body to come out to my family. They told me I'm wrong. They told me that I'm a freak. There's just so much pain when it comes to being happy in yourself, and I hate it.
So thank you so much for sharing. And somebody on my comments, I reshared the definition that was created about intersectionality, where it said being a Black woman is like being Black twice. And then someone commented and was like, what does it mean to be Black and trans? Is that like being Black 3 times? And I'm like, I think that's closer to like being Black 5 times. Because you're right. I think that, again, this is the complexity of intersectionality. And then also you hitting that like some of the internal issues within like cultures, including like our the cultures of people of color, the ways in which we internalize aspects of supremacy that doesn't allow us to live freely. So thank you so much for highlighting that and for speaking your truth and living it too. All right. So we're going to get into our very last somebody.
I just can I highlight something about the navigating topics? Mm-hmm. So you said that it's not always going to be like this simple. Not everyone's going to respond well, and I just want to like raise that up, because it would, I wish we lived in a perfect world where this was exactly how it goes every single time. And also thank you, Toph. That was powerful.
Okay. Kenny, next slide. All right, so we've done all of this discussions and these activities. Now we're going to give you all the opportunity to do a wee bit of practicing on that. And we're going to allow ourselves to be the actors as you practice. How do we engage in these conversations? So we got a couple of instructions. I'd like to take a moment and just give a general overview of what it looks like to navigate some of these topics in action. So we're going to go ahead and put you all into small groups, and your instructions are kind of simple. The first thing you're going to do is describe the setting. So if we're going to create a scenario, is this a meeting? Is it a conversation between friends? Is it in the classroom? As you can see from earlier, it was an advisory board meeting. So you're going to describe a setting, and then you're going to pick an action or a comment that starts off the scenario. And the scenario should reflect an instance where it's a difficult conversation. And of course, our focus is on race, and racial equity, but as we know, intersectionality hit. So again, thinking about some of these topics that we've been discussing, but also some of the ones that you have some difficulties in engaging, think about how you would want that to look. What should be the action or comment that starts off the scenario? And then lastly, we want you guys to speak to how should the response start? And we say only start because we're going to do some acting and you guys are going to tell us exactly what our next step should be in the middle of the scene, a little similar to the skit from earlier. So you're going to go into small groups, create a scenario, again, thinking about the setting, what's the action you want to happen, as well as what should the response start off with. And please don't create no George Lucas style script or nothing like that. We are basic actors here, and the facilitators and the staff will be helping to act out the scenarios that y'all create.
But is it possible if they want to act it out?
If there are people who want to act it out, please let me know, because I would absolutely love that. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. Kate, you literally had on the bag that entire scene. No. Are there any questions?
Okay, what's the time limit for this activity?
Okay, so they're going to have 15 minutes to choose their scenario, and then we'll come back and act it out. All right, any questions? All right, Emil?
All right, Shadi. So what's the plan?
The plan right now is to go into each and every single one of these groups and make sure that they have the link to this PowerPoint, because they're supposed to be writing out those scenarios in the PowerPoints. So if you can take that good link and give it to the groups.
Wait, which link?
Huh? Because we were supposed to be able to see, well, it kind of doesn't matter now, but we were supposed to be able to see their scenarios they create. So this was to write it into the slides, so we'll know what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So drop it, go take it and drop it in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many groups are there?
There are 5 groups.
Oh, okay. It's a little less than it was before.
Yeah, I was gonna make more, but sometimes like people don't join the group, so I just want to make sure that.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex, is the internet bad?
Yes, it is.
Hey. So it's been your internet going out?
Yeah, there's been a little difficulty with that. And then I'll text you too right now.
Okay.
Just finished the report on campus.
Gotcha.
Anyone still in this main session that needs help getting into a breakout room? Looks like mostly staff, so we're good. They should be using the link to this PowerPoint slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm seeing some scenarios being written out. Okay.
Today the groups are closing out, okay?
Hey, Benjamin.
Hey.
Could you make an announcement to groups? Oh, is everyone coming back already?
Yeah, everyone's coming back.
Oh, all right. Nope. I was gonna see if they could update their slides, but next time.
Yeah, we didn't have time to write it down, but I know the full scenario.
All right.
All right, so we're only going to act out one.
Okay.
Because we only got time to act out one. But I only see two that are actually on the slides. So where I see the information already. So I see group 4 wrote theirs out and group 5 wrote theirs out. But I'm interested. What was group 1's? What was your group's, April?
Yeah, so we actually based a scenario on something that I witnessed when I was in a group home. And it was a instance where a youth of color had won a cell phone, and we weren't allowed to have cell phones. And so like she was concerned about giving it to them. She didn't think she was going to get it back. And they ended up calling the cops and like tackling her and like locking the rest of us in our rooms. And there was like a lot of outrage afterwards, but it was interesting to see when it was happening because no one came forward and said anything, even though a lot of us were like peering out of our rooms. So we were too scared because of retaliation. And thinking back now, I would have definitely done it different.
Okay. Woo, that's heavy.
Yeah, sorry.
Do I got any type of agency in choosing the scenarios? Because group 4s, I hate to agree with Kate. Some of y'all know just how much, but group 4s actually look a little easy. So let's actually, Kenny, could you go to group 4s so people can see?
I don't know if one of the other groups might want to share that, one of the groups that didn't get to write it down, if they want to share out loud too, while Sade is looking at group 4. And then Jay said that group 1 wrote their scenario on slide 5.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I just assumed that y'all were group 5.
That wasn't group 1. That was someone else, but.
Okay, so group 2, do you want to share your scenario? I see group 5. Oh, go ahead.
We didn't really get ours done. Like we decided like where the scene was, but we didn't really get to like finish the rest of the stuff because maybe on my part, because I was having some issues, technical issues. I couldn't hear anybody. So I wasn't sure if like anybody was talking. So I had to like get my AirPods, and yeah, that was just technical issues.
It's been happening all day. Trust, we understand. I'll share group 5. So it's social media. It's a close friend or family member engaging with a member. The family member, close member posted something publicly that was problematic / racist. The member reaches out via DM. I just noticed that you made this comment and I'm wondering if you know the origins harmful consequences this viewpoint has towards marginalized people. So that's actually a pretty good one too. And then group 4s, which feels like it'll have a lot. We can actually get some volunteers to help act that out. We're at a family dinner. This is the dinner that we're introducing the new person we're seeing to the family. The majority of the family is white. The new person is a person of color, of Arab descent, and it's LGBTQ+. The conversation about reparations for African Americans come up. The new person, who is Arab LGBTQ+, says that slavery was a long time ago and that it doesn't make sense for African Americans of today to receive reparations. The response: the white family members aren't really sure about all this reparation stuff, but recently one of their family members went to the CYC conference and learned a little bit about racial equity, and brings up how reparations are one way to bring equity about, bring about equity. So I like this one because I think this gives opportunity for more people to act. So can I please get some lovely volunteers to act this one out?
How many people would we like?
At least 3. 4 will be Liddy.
I volunteer.
Okay, Hunger Games.
We also got Kate volunteering.
Dang, I forgot she volunteered.
Kate's volunteering.
I'm willing to share my acting talents with the CYC world, but you know, if there's other folks that want to volunteer, take that challenge on.
And don't be scared.
They just debuted on Zoom.
We did have a script.
Janae's gonna volunteer, and I can volunteer too.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do this.
So I want a disclaimer because we don't have a script this time. So just like, we're winging it.
This is improvisation.
Can you show your camera, please?
Yeah, sorry. I'm hoping my internet will hold out.
Okay, I'll be the person, the new person.
Okay.
And all right. Okay.
Wait, who wants to be the person who went to the conference? Because we kind of need to know that, because the rest of us.
I'll be the person that went to conference.
Okay. Okay.
And also note that at some point we're going to pause and y'all are going to tell us how we should proceed.
Who's Sade's partner? Because, you know, Sade's this is the partner of the white member. So who's that member?
I'll be the partner.
Okay, Janae's the partner. So.
And I'll just be the other family member at the table.
Okay.
Yeah, me and Kate will be the clueless family members.
Okay. But y'all trying to be allies though. Like, that's the thing. Y'all just, again, you guys are still working with, you guys don't understand meritocracy, colorblindness, or cultural racism. Like, y'all still be holding on to everybody got equal opportunities type of stuff. Okay. And action.
Hi, thank you all so much for inviting me to your lovely home. I'm so excited to be here.
We are so pleased to have you. I'm Janae. So grateful for you to bring Sade to our table today. It's just wonderful to meet you, Sade. You're lovely. So if April, can you pass me the carrots, please?
Of course, here you go. So what's up in the news lately? Anything interesting?
So I just went to this amazing CYC conference. You know, I work with foster youth, and I'm all about trying to be an ally. And I know that my allyship is, you know, needs some help. So we went to a current race and equity conference, and they were talking about what equity is, and a form that we can kind of be equitable in our society is to pay reparations. You know, that kind of made sense to me because we have not given everybody equal footing.
I've heard a little bit about this conversation on reparations, but I don't really know a whole lot about it yet.
Yeah, you know, I was listening to it on Tucker Carlson's show, and he was not agreeing with it. But then after I went to the CYC meeting, then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can get with this. This makes sense now.
So we're talking about paying people who were not enslaved money for people who were enslaved long ago.
Yes, but you have to understand that they're descendants and that it's like a bigger holistic world thing that has also plagued them. Like,
but we've so moved beyond the discrimination that's occurred, right? We had a Black president, for God's sakes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, we're thinking of, you know, adopting a child who's not of our culture because we just, you know, we're just what's the word I'm looking for again, hun? A big old bowl of everyone. We're just here together living as humans, right?
And thank you so much, sweetie. And to her point, I think it's very important that we operate in that space. So giving one group of people a ton of money who, again, themselves did not experience this, I'm just not sure that's how we reach any level of equality. But what I do think is that if we have people who truly work hard, and I mean, I know some really hard working African Americans, they can absolutely achieve some level of equality. I know some really great ones.
Yeah, my boss is African American.
Mine is too.
Well,
we love her. She's
okay. Well, yes, you know, some people are allotted more opportunities than other, but like, do you guys realize that our banking institution is actually racist? Like,
okay,
they're more.
I want to call scene here for a minute. So I want to toss it to the audience. Audience, how can April, who's been kind of quietly sitting on the sidelines, support Maribee in this conversation?
I will note I wasn't purposefully sitting quietly on the sidelines.
Okay, so we got one response is like, April, you can be affirming some of Maribee's responses and kind of lifting them up. You could talk about how not everyone does have equal rights.
And then also she could create space for Maribee, considering that what you call it, it's kind of hard to get a word in at the table.
Right. So also being one of those allies is like, hey, Maribee, I want to hear more about that. What were you saying about that article?
All of these things I was literally going to say. So loving that we're on the same
page. Using the body language. All right. Okay. So we're going to jump back into the scene. And Janae, I think you were saying something about Wells Fargo there.
Oh, do you mean like Wells Fargo and Bank of America? Because they're so diverse. I love walking into our branch. Remember, it's just so diverse in our branch.
Hold on. I think we need to give Maribee some space to talk because I'm really interested to hear what she learned at this conference because I kind of noticed some inequality going on and I don't understand how reparations will fix it. So can you please explain it to me, Maribee?
Yeah, well, this conference kind of gave us like a basic information. So then I decided to do a little digging because they emphasized that if you want to be a better ally, you're going to take action to educate yourself and not like ask your Black friends. And so I figured I don't want to ask just my Black friends. So Google and YouTube are my new best friends. And they said that banking practices have a way to like, they have a thing, statistics show that they do not lend to Black people the same way they lend to white people or to immigrants. Like, you know, like I
read an article about that. Wasn't that called like redlining?
Well, that redlining is actually for housing. See, so there's like a whole other thing. Like, it's a wormhole. Like my little brain it hurts.
Okay, so, and I hear that, I definitely hear that, Maribee, and it's not to say that African Americans haven't experienced any type of injustice, but I mean, I am of Arab descent and my people have as well. And we're not asking for reparations or any form of government handout. So I think my question to you is this really the way to help? And if it is, then why is it that no other demographic needs reparations to build economic stability?
Wait, no timeout, no timeout. Hold on, don't
No,
time
time
out.
out.
Don't time me out.
Yes, time out, because we're going to go to the audience here to get some input on how Maribel should respond to this question.
I should light her up. No.
I mean, you should. You could.
That's it. Mashed potatoes. That's it.
Without Kate, we would just keep going.
So audience, Sade has thrown a question out there.
I think it'll be important to reiterate that these experiences between minority groups are extremely different, despite some similarities in oppression. And the long-standing history of oppression is systemic for people that Mary is advocating for. And that should be a focus, because we're not monolithic, even if, you know, we have experienced oppression.
All right, so really kind of calling out specifically the challenges and anti-Blackness for sure. So, and that Black people aren't the same as all other people of color.
Why is it so easy for me?
That because of the generational wealth gap that exists between Black and white Americans. It's not necessarily true for all other groups. Okay.
Dancing, Betsy. Okay. So there is a generational wealth gap that has been established. So it's made it really hard for Black people in particular to gain wealth. And no matter how hard they work to get out of that poverty state, it's still, there's still systems in place. So that's one thing that we learned a lot about in this conference is structural racism and how that directly impacts people. And then if you uplift the Black community, then everybody else, like for example, when we address anti-Blackness, then we can also address the colorism within the Arab community, the Asian community, the Latinx community. So really addressing anti-Blackness is a positive for everybody that is marginalized in their own cultural system.
Also, what I'm hearing is just because reparations go to Black people doesn't that doesn't take away from other people's oppression and experiences, right?
Yes, it doesn't. It doesn't. We understand that other people have been marginalized, and we're not in a oppression Olympics. We're not trying to compete or trying to compare them. However, just acknowledging that they were stolen and brought here. And then there was 300 plus years of slavery, plus then another 100 plus years of Jim Crow, where we strategically made it impossible for them to gain any type of financial means to get ahead. And then we created and this is something that I read online through the Botanical Encyclopedia of something. And then the NBC report just ran a story on Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And so it just I was able to connect dots. See, I'm working on my allyship, trying to educate myself. And because at first, let me just express to you, Sade, as being her partner, I also wasn't really on board with this reparation thing until I start really doing my homework on it. And so I hope you can do some homework and then really educate yourself.
No, go ahead. Something to think about, because we're women and we remember how hard it was for us, even culturally, to get our degrees and be out on our own and especially be able to express ourselves today. So it's definitely a thought process, definitely.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still parts of this that's really not jiving with me completely, but I will say it's not often that I'm able to have these types of conversations and they don't, where I feel like I'm basically being attacked. So, I mean, like I said, there's still, I know a lot of Black people who actually are very wealthy. Like, so there's parts of this that's not fully driving, but it is enough for me to look into. Because although I may not think that reparations is the way, I understand what you're saying, Mary, that there's a need for some type of, you said it was equity or equality?
No, it's equity.
Equity. Okay.
Yeah. It's addressing people's individual needs. And seeing, Kate, my white family member has not said nothing to support or to go against me. So come on, Kate.
Would anybody like some dessert?
End scene.
Like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, Kate.
Good one.
I'm done with you.
All right, so how do we do? How do we do? What do y'all think? Kate ended it very realistically, I have to say. But what did y'all think? What worked well there, and what some of the things that could have been better?
I feel like y'all put out a lot of different real life situations. I really appreciate Mary reiterating that this is something that I learned on my own time, you know, really took the labor away from Black counterparts to educate herself and being an ally and putting herself in an uncomfortable position to bring that up. Although she was met with a lot of like, well, we are Black, you know, my boss is Black and all of this other stuff, you know, like real life things that people try to say in the name of comfort that really is rooted in diversion. So I just wanted to point that out. And I threw in the chat a response that I would have said if I was if I was a Black person, backing Mary up, but I really appreciate the way that you stood in as an ally. And then also that aspect of other people of color who fall within this spectrum of oppression, and how it's not always the same. Like you can't box us all into one group and say like, well, our group doesn't need it, so your group shouldn't need it, you know? So I really appreciated that because it gave the opportunity for that to be addressed in the conversation and thus here in this larger platform in CIC.
Thank you, Quadjay. Can you read your comment? Are you okay with it or do you want me to read it?
I can read it. I said, y'all got a closer, this is in response to Sade basically calling Black people welfare queens in so many words as their role. I don't want to say that's Sade, but you played the heck out of that. I said, y'all got a closer proximity to whiteness and therefore experience more privileges than Black folks. To assume that we're getting handouts that are unnecessary overlooks the long history of disparate impacts economically. What you call a privilege is really just basic needs that we're asking for. That's it.
So yeah, I think for a lot of y'all were saying like, I feel this, or I've been there, or I know, like, you know, this feels really familiar. And I think for me, it was the same, like, because I know that we all are in these instances where we try to hop into these conversations and somebody hits you with that, bam, like, and it's, you know how to respond, but you took it off so much that it's like what Jay just said, like you basically call in the middle, you calling us welfare queens. And I've been a part of that conversation where somebody had said something almost exactly like that to me. And although I had a response, it knocked me off kilter so much because of like, it was covert in a way. But yeah, and I have to agree. I also think that there was a way that Mary B tried to pull me in with a lot of compassion. I know what Mary B sound like when she checking somebody. So she did a really good job of like actually balancing tone and information and like just being encouraging about educating yourself. And again, I'll be honest, like I balance when I'm that and when I'm a little bit more sharp. But there's something about the way that she communicated that felt like she was trying to pull everybody at the table in. And I just want to highlight what Jay said. You go into a triggered mode that pulls us into an internal debate with things we settle about as fact or not. Yeah, because then I actually question, like, okay, are we just looking for a handout? Like, are we doing
right?
Yeah, and I think that it takes a lot of with the conversation.
Right. And I just really want to break it down, like, you know, other people were given reparations. I also want to highlight that Haitians paid reparations to French for not having slaves because we defeated them in the Haitian Revolution. They lost because they lost profit. Haitians paid reparations to the French. Therefore, it really hit them hard economically. So, yeah, reparations are absolutely needed.
Yeah, so to Mayor B's point, the reparations that Haiti pays is the single most deterrent to their economic stability then and like now. But also, you know, the U.S. has done it as well. But yeah, thank y'all for participating. Thank y'all for the comments, because like they was actually keeping us live as we went. We was feeding off of the things y'all was putting in the chat as we were going. So thank y'all so much for that. I think somebody has their hand up. I can't see who it is though.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly highlight. Tov said in the chat, like, it's a waste of time. Sorry, it's multiple parts. It's so hard for me to make racist white people sound slightly better. The real version would be like 10,000, 100,000 times more aggressive. So I do want to highlight, like, the point is definitely not to make racist white people slightly sound better. That is like, we're not trying to let them get away with it or like sugarcoat it. Like, this scenario was just kind of like off the top of our heads, but the point is definitely not to like sugarcoat it or like make them feel better. It's to call it out in a way that also leads them to learn.
And you get to choose when you do this. Like, again, I am the person that know that I'm not going to always be funny with this. I'm not always going to be smiley. I'm not a call in person 24 hours of the day. And just as people of color, I really do encourage us to like think about the times that we engage in these conversations. Are we there? Like, do you have the capacity to do so? Do you have a white ally friend that would be a little bit more effective in engaging with this conversation? And I've started to do that. And even in like, you know, CYC spaces where there are times where our white members are a lot more effective at teaching, at guiding in. And I think that's actually just basic. I don't know how much I put this towards like naturalization or whatever, but I do think that sometimes it's easier to hear messages from people who look similar to you, who you assume have similar experiences, even if when you get to know them, you see that maybe you don't. But like, I think there's power in using allyship. And it's also very imperative that people of color take time to decide when they want to engage in this. You don't always have to do this. You get to choose, and you absolutely get to take care of yourself. Everybody does, but that's absolutely a message I have for folks of color.
And we have a hand up.
Yeah.
Oh no, maybe not. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
They had their hand up. Maybe it went down.
Yes.
Oh, wait, do you mean me or somebody else?
Yes,
Sorry.
you. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't know
okay.
if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
Yeah, no, it's tough. But what's it called? I was just gonna say, also something that ties into a lot of views that white people have, especially because typically they're Christians, is the idea that like, oh, it's bad to kill people, but I still support the death penalty. Like, it's like really, I don't know. That's another big thing to me. It's kind of funny to me. I don't know. I don't get it. Like, how are they gonna claim like, oh yeah, killing people is wrong, but like kill people? And they know, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of white people know that like mainly Black men are the people that are like on death row, and they're mainly the ones that are falsely accused. But I don't know if, like, honestly at this point I don't even know if like most white people are aware That, or if they just don't care and they kind of just like want people dead. I don't know. That's something that's also really weird to me.
The death penalty, like it's the project, I can't think of the name, but they did research on that very thing, showcasing that almost 60 to 70% of the death row inmates had clauses in their case that may point to their innocence. And of course, like there's subjectivity that's connected to that, but like they saw like true gaps in their cases more than other demographics. But for the most part, they also were the least likely to be pardoned, the least likely to get a stay of an execution, really the most likely to actually be executed regardless of evidence shown.
Oh, and on top of that, to even carry out the death penalty is so much, like it's a huge waste of money.
Yes.
It's so much, it costs so much. I think it's about like, I want to say it was 250 million for like up until 1980, like all the executions that they've done. So it's been like, on top of that, it's most of the people that were executed for innocent. So I don't get how it's adding up here. How people are like, oh, we have money. We don't have money for schools, but we have money to kill innocent like Black people. Like I don't make it make sense. I don't get it.
Jay, what they say? They got money for wars, but can't feed the poor. What, didn't your favorite rapper say that? But no, Toph, absolutely on point. We claim we don't have the resources, but we have billions, trillions almost fed into the death penalty complex. April, I see your hand raised, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah. I do really want to, like, I can't speak for all white people. And there's definitely white people out there who like absolutely do know about it and don't care. And it's really disgusting, but like I grew up in a predominantly white area. Like I wasn't around any people of color at all. Like it was just white people. And we, like, I truly didn't get it because the rhetoric that you hear from like that white people repeat a lot is the rhetoric that's been repeated to them. So like there is like this denial and ignorance that kind of like plays into it. And so it's very difficult to like get through that layer of ignorance and like teach people. But in my, like, at least in my experience, a lot of the times they don't even realize what they're doing is racist and wrong and perpetuating these systems. It's just, they have literally been taught to perpetuate the systems and it's just become normal. So I just wanted to quickly say that. That being said, that doesn't like excuse it.
Yeah, thank you, April. Interestingly enough, I know both. I know some who are very aware of like inequality and continue to perpetuate it. Then I know those, and I've been blessed to really have people in my life who they really were ignorant and they just really needed time and space and even a little bit of encouragement to learn. And I think that's what's dope about, again, CYC is for the most part, this was a part of so much of my development and so much a part of like a lot of our development. And oftentimes it's in these spaces that we learn more about different people and cultures and identities. So yeah, it's kind of a beautiful thing in a way. I mean, it's painful, but it's also really beautiful. And Toph, I see you. Oh, check out Jordan's link. I think it's the Justice Institute has led some major work of stopping the death penalty in the States. Check out the link, y'all. And then Toph put in the chat, a lot of people just refuse to learn because it's too hard and they'd rather have a feeling of superiority. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to learn. But again, I think with a little bit of time and some effort, we can probably change the world. I mean, we already have a bit too. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and go to the next slide. I see you, Kenny. The next couple of them, it should say big love. Oh. Okay. All right.
Do you want the big love slide or the next one?
Yeah, Alex, did you want to take this one?
Sorry, Sade, I was trying to unmute myself.
That's okay. All right, so just a quick reminder, again, I thank you all for participating in this activity, for the deep explorations, and just the reflections that we've had. You got it, Alex?
Yeah. I was muted again, and also yeah. So let me get. Yeah, this work is ongoing, and then you will also make mistakes that are enough. So for that, big love. In line with acknowledging that the learning will continue outside of this workshop space, we like to share with you a document that has a list of resources for you to continue to engage in that learning zone. So we are going to share a document.
Oh, no. Did my computer disconnect?
No. I think Alex, you cut off a little bit at the end.
Okay. I said so. Right now we're going to be dropping the resource guide into the chat, and we'd like to thank the participants and the guests for coming to the workshop. Sade, I will let you pass it back off to you to talk about tomorrow and next steps.
Okay, sure. So yeah, please make sure y'all check out that resource guide. Curriculum development team has curated a list of books to read, so for you all to continue the work. As Alex so eloquently stated, this is just the beginning. So continue to educate yourself, continue to engage in more of these conversations, but also continue to engage in more of the advocacy and the activism that allows us to liberate folks, people of color, people with marginalized identities. Yeah, so please make sure y'all check out. There's a reading list, there's a watch list, there's some really good, oh, we should start a book club, Linnea. You ain't said nothing but a word. Absolutely. All right, so that's the end of this workshop. So I know Jeanette has some surveys that she needs to put out, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw the floor to you.